War crime, murder, or completely legal? That's what we're ultimately going to find out when it comes to those strikes conducted by the U.S. military on boats in international waters, allegedly carrying drugs. And in particular, the secondary strike on a boat in early September that killed 2 survivors of the initial strike. The White House confirmed, yes, that happened on September 2nd. Now, generally, the U.S. military does not conduct what are known as double tap strikes because they're illegal through the U.S. military code, U.S. law, and also international law. That's not to say that it's illegal to hit the same target twice. That is legal, but what's illegal is targeting the wounded or defenseless. Doing that could be considered a war crime. Now, there's a lot in there, and there's definitely a lot that we still do not know. And what we don't know is just as important as what we do know at this point. So I'm going to get to what we know, what we don't know in a second. But first, I want you to hear directly from the President of the United States and the Secretary of War, formerly Secretary of Defense, when asked today about who gave the order to hit that boat a second time.
I still haven't gotten a lot of information because I rely on Pete. But to me, it was an attack. It wasn't 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat. I can say this. I want those boats taken out.
Okay, so the Commander-in-Chief of the United States says he didn't know anything about that second strike on the same boat. All he knows is he gave the order to take out the boats. He's then pointing the finger at Pete, as in Pete Hegseth, who is the next logical person in the chain of command who could have given that order to hit the boat again. So did he?
The first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do, and by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back.
Okay, so he's saying a lot in there. He's saying he made the call to strike the boat. He watched the first strike happen live, and then he says he walked away from the live feed because he says he's a busy person. And then when he returned, he learned there were 2 survivors of the initial strike, and the admiral in charge of the operation was the one who made the call to strike the boat again, killing those 2 survivors. So what he's saying is it was the admiral who ordered that second strike, and he, as the secretary in charge, wasn't physically there?
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike? You personally?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. Right. It was exploded in fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. Right. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters. President Trump has empowered commanders to do what is necessary, which is dark and difficult things in the dead of night on behalf of the American people. We support them.
Clearly, Hegseth is defending these strikes, and he's saying he has the back of the military commanders that he puts in charge of these missions. But at the same time, he is absolutely distancing himself from the order to hit the boat again. And then I guess he's blaming the media for reporting on it and blaming politicians who are questioning it. Now, there are a lot of questions that still need answers before we can get a full picture of whether this is legal or not legal. First, there are questions about whether these boat strikes are legal at all. The president says he has designated these drug smugglers as terrorists because he says the drugs they're carrying are killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. So he has every right to kill them, and he says he's going to continue to do so both on water and on land if he has to. Now, many Democrats and some Republicans are questioning whether the president can even conduct these strikes. Congress has not authorized them, and they have certainly not approved a declaration of war. On top of that, the Trump administration has not provided one piece of evidence publicly that proves these people in these boats are actually carrying drugs headed for the United States. Some absolutely could be, but others definitely were not. And we know that because after a different strike, there were also survivors who were not captured or arrested by the U.S. military, but were sent back to their home countries. If they were actually smuggling drugs headed to the United States, wouldn't the U.S. military capture them and keep them in custody until they could be tried? The other question is, even if they were suspected of carrying drugs, can they legally be killed for that? Does the president or even the Secretary of War get to be the judge, jury, and executioner? Those are real questions lawmakers are asking right now. The second set of questions has to do with this actual second strike or double tap strike. Who was actually responsible for giving that order? How long was it between the initial strike and then that second strike? Was it a double tap or was it an immediate follow-up strike to eliminate a threat? And if it was that, how did whoever was responsible determine that the survivors clinging to the boat after the initial strike were a threat? Republicans and Democrats in both the House and the Senate are now investigating this incident because someone somewhere is going to have to take responsibility. The Admiral and even Hegseth are going to ultimately have to testify about this mission. And once Congress gets to the bottom of it, then we will know if it was legal or not. And remember, if this incident was found to be illegal, the Supreme Court says the President of the United States has immunity protection for any alleged criminal action that he may take while in office. However, that criminal immunity does not get passed down the chain of command.